The panel discussion is going to be recorded today, and we've sought consent from today's panellists for us to be able to do this. Next slide, please, Phoebe. So now that the formalities are over, I'm going to start by opening the discussion with an interactive poll. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should see 4 questions, and you'll have 2 or 3 minutes to answer those questions, starting from now. I'm going to go quiet for a couple of minutes while you answer those.
Poll. Would you like to take the poll down? The presenter opened the poll. The presenter opened the poll. Would you like to take the poll? Yes. Yes. Bruce? Yeah, she isn't even needed.
Catherine, can you hear me now?
Okay, you've got about another minute. Okay, so thank you for answering the poll questions. We're going to be referring back to the results during the discussion. Next slide, please, Phoebe. Thank you. So just before we move on to the main part of the discussion this afternoon, I'd like to remind you of some support resources which are available to you. If any of you are struggling or need some extra support at this time, please don't forget that you can contact your clinician at the hospital who can address any of your worries or concerns. There are also several head and neck support charities, such as the Swallows, the National Association of Laryngectomy Clubs, Macmillan and the Samaritans. And you can see their details on the screen now. Also, as a customer of ATOS Medical and Countrywide Supplies, you can also have access to our customer care team and nursing team who are on hand to answer any of your questions. We're going to email this slide out to you after the event today so that you've got that for your reference. So could you close the presentation, Phoebe? And I'm going to hand you over to Phoebe so that she can just show you how to change from the presentation to the grid view so you can see all of us at the same time. Thanks, Phoebe.
Yes. So as this is a panel event, and if you'd like to see everybody on your screen, there are just some directions on here. So just on the top right hand corner of your screen, once I've finished sharing this PowerPoint, if you select the icon at the top and select grid view, you will be able to see everyone on the screen at the same time. So I will stop sharing the presentation now, and you could try that to see everyone.
Okay, so I've got the grid view. I'm hoping everybody else has too.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted to kick off the discussion with the first question to James and Roisin. So both of you, have you felt isolated during lockdown, and how have you dealt with this isolation? You're on mute, James.
It hasn't been too bad because Roisin would go into the shop, or our son goes into the shops if I need it, so I haven't been too bad.
Oh, that's great to hear. Anybody else have anything to add? Has anybody else been feeling a bit isolated? Can you let us know how you've dealt with that?
I was quite lucky in the sense of like, for first 10 weeks, my sister lives quite close to me, so she delivered all my shopping and things, and I was being quite strict, but obviously I have quite a lot of friends, so we had like regular FaceTimes and quizzes and things, and then they slowly started to like come in my garden, and I started to like be less strict, so I was alright, to be fair.
Good, that's great to hear, Josh. Steve?
I've taken a more pragmatic approach to it than a lot of people. I've not adhered to the lockdown itself, and I've just tried to be sensible and to really sort of do the normal things. So I've done everything that's normal. I've carried on working. I run a business. I've been shopping, but I go a bit later at night. I go out for a drive. We've been walking. So isolation and no, but I've got good support. I've got a wife who supports me very much. It's been relatively easy, to be honest.
Good, that's great to hear. And Derek, what about yourself?
I'm very much the same as what Dean is, to be honest. I've even been fishing. I go fishing about 3 times a week. But I've just been a little bit more cautious, that's all. Basically, when I've been going, yeah, I've gone shopping, but I've gone early in the morning when nobody else is it. Well, not so much nobody, but you know, when it's a little bit quieter. And obviously, my wife has been, she's a great help as well. So you know, but I can honestly say that I've just been a little bit more cautious, same as Dean.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
More aware.
That's great, Derek. And also, Derek, if I can aim the next question at you first. I know you mentioned about keeping busy going shopping, and you've also mentioned that you've recently started fishing a few times a week. What else have you been doing to keep yourself busy? Have you taken up any new hobbies or learnt any new skills?
Not really. I mean, well, I've done all my back garden and God knows what. I'm fed up with painting. But I've done it all. I've finished all that now. So what time I've got now is to my own.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And what about?
That would have been walking, but well, they did. I've been down to Portsmouth this weekend. I've been to my daughter's at Gosport
Yeah.
and really enjoyed it. The weather was brilliant, so it made a big change for me.
Nice change of scenery for you then, eh?
Pardon?
I say nice change of scenery for you then.
Yeah, but the water was a bit cold, so I didn't bother go swimming.
Derek. Can I open that question up to the rest of the panel, please? Has anyone taken up any new hobbies or learnt any new skills?
Nothing in particular. I think that we've all got probably the neatest gardens where I live.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A picture on.
Yeah, we've also got.
I think they're gone.
So
They are. This guy is from Portsmouth.
everyone's been sort of doing stars gardening. We've been walking, just generally keeping busy. I'm a great sport lover, so I'm glad that sport's back on the television because it was very difficult for the first couple of months with no football or rugby or motoring. But just generally, as I said before, trying to keep us as normal as possible without being silly. I've not been on any protests or anything like that. So it's we've kept safe, which is the main thing.
That's great. That's great. Anybody else like to add anything?
I didn't do that much, to be fair. Like I did my mentorship course, which is like part of my nursing program. So I got that done. Other than that, I was like getting the house done and watching loads of Netflix, to be fair.
Like most of us.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Josh, if we could just stay with you, if you don't mind. We've had somebody submit a question prior to today's event who just wanted to ask how people with tracheostomies have been coping during this time, as they've never spoken to anybody with a trache before. So I think they feel like they're like the only one out there at the moment. So if you could just give us a bit of an insight, please.
I guess that they are a bit like unseen. I don't know how common they are, but I don't see them very often at all, not in adults anyway. But it's been, obviously I can only speak from my experience, but because I've had it for a long time, I've actually been okay, and I'm quite lucky in the sense that I can be independent. I don't really rely on anyone, and I do things myself. So I think obviously the main thing is getting a good support network, and it's hard to sort of adapt as well because there's not enough guidelines at the moment to do with COVID in terms of tracheostomy. And so it's good to like I've spoken to my GP and my local trachea nurse in my hospital, but it's just a new thing. Like obviously you have to adapt loads to a trachea anyway, but then there's a lot more adapting that you need to do because of this. So like I said, I'm quite lucky and I'm not changed that much, but at the moment it seems to be going okay. But it just depends on like the other factors that you've got as well. If you've got like long-term ventilation with your trachea, or you've got oxygen and things. So I'd say the main thing is obviously just use all your resources that you've got in your area to help you adapt.
Definitely. And I guess there's not much in the way of guidelines at the moment because the majority of the tracheostomy patients are shielding still, aren't they? So I guess as time goes on and we get closer to the end of the month when that's been lifted, then there should be some more guidelines coming through. So that's great. Thanks, Josh. Dean, if I could put the next one to you. We've had another question submitted prior to today, just asking for any suggestions on how to keep motivated, particularly for those people that can't speak and that whose treatment might have been delayed because of COVID-19. Obviously, you're a very motivated person naturally, so if we could just hear from you.
Well, I'm quite lucky. I I've got a different attitude. My attitude is to get on with it. There's not much I can do about it. So, back in 2018, I had a triple heart bypass, and that put me out of action for about a month, which was a bit of a surprise. And then to get throat cancer on top of that in 2019, the 2 years really from 2018 to 19 haven't been particularly good for me. But I have tried to, I run my own business in financial services, and I've got a 15-year-old boy. And that's the inspiration really that I need to keep going. It's not something that you can roll over and just give up on things, when you've got people that rely on you. So I just sort of keep on going and keep on working and just do whatever I need to do. We're in the process at the moment of moving house.
Right.
We hope to be moving in the next month to the South Sea, which is right on the coast. So we're moving from where we are here to about 10 miles down the road. So that's another thing. It's just really keeping busy. I was generally very lucky when I had my operation for my throat. They put the voice box in at the time. So I was speaking after around about 2 weeks. My eyes water sometimes, it's just one of the things that happens. I'm not crying, it's just my eyes.
I don't think I'm that horrible.
But I was lucky. I've been very lucky. I've been up and about. I've been to the gym. I go to the gym regularly. I went to the gym before lockdown. I've been able to speak relatively quickly, and I haven't found it that difficult. I can use my hands free, which I've got a hands free set here, which I use quite often.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
I don't know about motivation. It's something that I've always done myself, but it must be difficult, I think, for people that can't talk.
Definitely.
Say I've been lucky. When I first came out of the operation, I had to write everything down, which was an interesting, and people learned to lip read very quickly, which I found was really quite good.
Definitely, yeah.
But after 3 weeks, I was talking and out of hospital straight away, so I've been okay, really.
Great, that's great to hear. And just to remember that there are, for the people in the audience, going back to what Josh was saying on the previous question, just remember your clinicians and finding out if there's any local support groups local to you. So your clinicians will be able to update you as to that, but also see if they're still running, if they're running them virtually, because they're probably not running them face to face at the moment. But the Swallows and the Macmillan charity that we mentioned previously, they've been running virtual support groups during COVID-19. So just have a look into those, and hopefully you'll be able to get a bit more support, those of you that haven't been able to get some so far. So I'm going to pass over to Alana for the next few questions. Okay.
Thanks, Catherine, and thank you to everybody. We've had a lot of live questions come into the Q&A function. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that have already come through on email, as well as some live questions as well. And the first question I'll direct to James, and then if anybody has any of similar experience or something they'd like to comment on, please jump in. But James, if we could start with you, because I think you have you attended any hospital appointments during lockdown? And if you could just tell us a bit about what that experience has been like for those people listening and who haven't been to hospital just yet.
Yeah, I was. My pulse started leaking when in the hospital. It was a bit strange seeing the nurses and the PPEs.
Right.
But I got the valve changed. But then about 3 weeks later, there must have been a faulty valve or something. It leaked again. They ended up with a bit of a temperature. Ended up being admitted into hospital with a bit of pneumonia. So it I think it was just strange seeing people all kind up, the nurse.
Yeah, so they were in full PPE when you had your valve change. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. And then, as I said, I was admitted to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Pneumonia. And I could short date and everything back to normal. So.
And the hospital experience, we've been hearing that, you know, hospitals, A&Es are a little bit quieter. The wards themselves, what was the experience like?
I went into A&E on a Tuesday night, and I thought usually it's one of the busier nights in Great Falls.
Yeah.
One's in it. So I was triaged.
Very quick.
Within an hour, I was in resus. So it was extremely quick. So it was, and then IV up very quickly in oxygen. So by 4:20, I still had the med. Was still very high and had palpitations. But then from about 6:30, I felt fine. Once the IV started to get in, the temperature reduced and I felt pretty much back to normal. So I was very lucky. The hospital, I was in a side room and it had its toilet.
Yeah.
So the only thing I wasn't allowed was out, so I just walked around the rooms. But,
And Roisin, were you allowed to be there with him?
No,
No.
down to casualty, and once he was triaged, then the nurse came out and advised me to go out and wait in the main hospital. But I just said I went out and sat in the car and then waited for him to ring because he had the mobile. And then after a while there was no answer, and I realised I had the mobile in his jacket. But they were very good. And the head specialist, nurse James, was to go the next morning to get the filter changed. And I had contacted her to say, and she had already been on to the ward. She was fit to tell me what was happening. She said he got his filter changed. She was brilliant. Now, we're very lucky with her, Catherine.
That's great.
And say, look, if there's any change or anything different. I knew that I wouldn't have got in to see him. And the fact that he's in the side room and everything, I just said, you know, at least he's been well looked after. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Has anybody else had any hospital appointments or inpatient experiences they could share for those who are keen to know more about what it's like in the hospital at the moment?
No? I've been twice for valve change because my valves don't last very long. Captain knows that. Yeah, I've been twice. I was there 3 weeks ago, and it's obviously they're getting back to normal 3 weeks ago. The physiotherapists even said they even use the same room as I normally go to. So things are turning around a bit. They were coming in with the face and visors and masks and everything on because I was joking with them and said, I just hope you can get that valve in the right place and, you know, because, well, I think Catherine will tell you.
That's Derek.
It is. I was just because that's no different from normal, is it, Derek? It's no different from normal for you.
No, nothing really. I'll be honest with you. I did say I spoke to Catherine a couple of weeks ago, and I did say I felt sorry for these people that's had laryngectomy, and I'm not being able to go about their normal daily thing. It must be terrible, you know.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have a drink. I'm drying up.
Absolutely.
The pub's open now, 4 o'clock.
We do see that things are, you know, as you say, hospitals are opening back up and the shielding restrictions are being lifted for those who were shielding. And it's great to get the inspiration from all of you that have been active as well during lockdown. I'm going to ask a lot of question that's come in, a couple here. One has come in about getting supplies, and someone is finding it a little bit more difficult to get their supplies during lockdown. I don't know if any of you have had that problem, and you could comment on that. They're saying potentially it's a prescription to the GP. They're not sure, and I just wanted to see if anybody else has had that problem and how you've gotten around it if you have.
Well, I could say that I'll be quite truthful. My supplies have been coming quite just the same as they were before.
Okay.
You know, when I order them, or I'll rephrase that one. When my wife orders them, they're normally there within a few days. They've been quite good. No problem at all.
And they specifically are mentioning tracheostomy supplies, so it may be things that don't come on prescription from the GP, like a tracheostomy mask or suction catheters. Josh,
So,
have you?
Yeah, I have had a lot of issues in the past. Unfortunately, not in the pandemic, especially because I made a lot of areas when I was a student, so I had to keep changing teams. And in the pandemic, I've been okay with my supplies, but it took a long time to get to the point where I'm at now in terms of what they know that they need to order, and like having overall awareness of it. But when I first moved to Birmingham, it was horrendous. Like they didn't know what they were doing. But I have majority of things are countrywide, which is obviously amazing because you can just order online. I'm happy to do that whenever, and you can choose. But in terms of my tubes, suction catheters, and my suction canisters that I get from my suction unit, they have to all go through the CCG. So that's connected to the GP as well. But when I knew that this issue was going on, I emailed my person at CCG and just said is there a delay of orders and things, and luckily there was no delays in mine, but there has been a few issues in the past in terms of the manufacturer with catheters, not so much trachea tubes, because mine are quite standard basic tubes, whereas I know if you can have a lot of customised tubes with valves and all different companies that do them, but luckily mine are quite standard, so I've not had any issues during COVID times. But I do hassle them and order things a lot in advance anyway.
Good advice to have those open lines of communication, as you say, and to kind of know where the supplies are coming from so you can know who to contact when you need them. Thank you. We've had some other questions come in regarding face masks. And one live question that's come in is, how do you think the new rules on wearing masks in public will affect our community? So from the 24th of July, obviously now out in public, the government's requiring all people to wear face masks when they go into shops. And I think someone's just wondering how it will affect laryngectomies and tracheostomies.
I don't think it's going to affect us in any way, to be honest with you. I've not worn a mask to date. But if I go shopping, which I'm lucky I don't have to go shopping because I don't like shopping. The only time I go shopping is for food. I need to go shopping. But if I'm shopping for food, I'll put a face mask on. I'll put it on my face. I know I breathe out of here, but I mean, if it keeps everybody quiet and it stops any hassle, then I'll just go ahead and do it. I don't think it's going to be a great life changer, to be honest. I don't use public transport.
Yeah.
And we're in a position in this part of the country where the public transport is not like you're living in London, so you're on the tube and off the tube here. We drive everywhere, we park everywhere. It's not a major problem. So I don't think it's going to affect me specifically, and I would hope that the majority of people in this community have probably got the sense to put one on, whether you're going to use it or not. It doesn't make a lot of difference. Just to stop any idiots out there telling you haven't got a face mask and getting into an argument, so I'll probably wear it just to keep the peace.
I like wearing them. I prefer wearing them in shops. Like I've been wearing them in public places when I've been going. Obviously, for us though, it's like when your neck breathes, it's pretty much pointless when you wear it on your face. It's just more for protection from particles getting onto you than you passing them to them, because you're not going to breathe through your nose and mouth. But I had to look into guidelines as well, because of my job I have to wear a mask anyway, so it's going to be like a mask on my face and over my neck. But obviously if you're just going shopping and things, I wouldn't go that over the top. I would just wear a mask. But they've got this new extra care valve which I've been using when I've been going somewhere crowded, which you can't act bits, they can't talk with it, but it's just extra safety, I guess. But I'm not going to go over the top with it. But I think a mask on my face, I don't know if that's going to make much difference to anyone. I prefer it, to be fair.
Yeah.
I do. From this age.
Sorry, Dean, there's a bit of interference in the background. Go ahead.
I think Derek's on the move again.
I think he is.
I've not done nothing.
I've changed from the small HME to the larger, more filtered HME when I go out.
Is that the micron?
Micron.
Sure. Okay.
When I'm shopping, but you know, when I go round, we're now into this kind of bubble thing, going from one building to another. I don't often change it for family anymore. You know, my son lives with his mother, so when he comes over, it's just normal. But I mean, when I go out, I use the micron, which I would advise people to use because it's quite good.
Thank you.
And just a big point is about, I like something cosmetically pleasing as well. I don't like something so like, I know obviously you can't miss anything, but there are nicer ones to wear than other ones. I think a big massive valve, I would rather just take a bit more of a risk and just look less obvious, because when you wear a mask on top of what you got on your neck, it's just going to make you look even more like stand out a bit. That's just me personally. Like, some other people may not feel like that.
Yeah, and I was just going to comment and say that medical advice for laryngectomies and tracheostomies is because COVID can come through in droplet forms and be inhaled in the mouth. You should be wearing a mouth when you're out to protect yourself. But as you see, Josh, you want to be discreet and not sort of, you know, point fingers at your stoma. So thank you. I think we'll come back to that question a little bit later on about exactly what you are doing when you go out. I'm going to hand it over to Catherine now for a couple more questions.
Thanks, Alana. So I'm just going to ask a general question to all of you, really. Have any of you had to learn new skills because you've had to attend virtual or video appointments with your clinicians during lockdown? I can see someone laughing.
I've been on a few video calls. Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
No, they're very good interest, so they are.
A few Zoom quizzes.
You're a whiz at it, are you now? So had you used anything like that before lockdown at all?
No.
No. Okay, so you've had to learn how to access it and how to mute and unmute yourself, and no?
You have to learn how to work it.
I had to learn, so
okay, so Roisin had to learn it.
I'm still learning.
You're still we could see that, Derek.
I don't know what I've done, and I'll tell you, it's gone.
So while we're on the subject of learning new things, have you had to learn any new routine at all during lockdown? So do you have to take anything new out with you that you never took before, or do you have to take more supplies out with you?
you're hiding. What?
Yeah, I always have to bring a man bag with me.
What?
Man bag. I I didn't think I would ever have to bring a bag with me all the time.
No, all right, with all the supplies. Gloves.
Okay. So has anybody else had to adapt what they take out with them, or are you pretty much carrying on as you did before?
I just take my mask and that extra care valve, like if it's going to be like busy, but
Yeah.
I know tracheostomies you can get a bit over the top in how much you take with you, because you have like a suction unit, suction catheters, spare, emergency stuff, and a lot of the stuff can be really big depending on what area you live in. If you like fight for like smaller supplies, and I like to take the bare minimum really, because things can get heavy, but I only have 2 extra things. Oh, and a hand sanitizer, so like 3 extra things that I take.
I keep a small supply in the back of the car, just in a bag, a change of meat plates and a few bits and pieces, and then I just take a small, as James says, man bag out with me. But I've always carried a man bag with me anyway, so it's never been a major problem. So it's just a bit of additional, a little bit like Josh. I've never carried sanitized lotion in my bag before, but I've got a little bottle in there now, so we're keeping safe, which is the main thing.
Good, that's great. And this is going to be submitted to all of you as well. So has anybody had to use an electrolarynx before in the past? We had a question submitted prior to today, just asking if there's a good technique for using an electrolarynx particularly on the telephone, so that you can be understood from the other end. Has anybody got any experience of an electrolarynx at all?
Not me, no, I haven't, none at all.
No, James?
I've never had that. I don't know about that, Catherine, at all, because normally if I get any phone calls or I'm ringing anybody, I just say to them, "Can you hear me okay?" And I get a good response. If I don't get a good response, well, it's a bit tough. But no, normally it's fairly good.
Good.
So,
Okay.
I don't know how other people get on, but I've never had any problem on the phone.
That's good, Derek. Thank you. So just a couple of little tips really for that person and anyone else that uses an electrolarynx. So just make sure that you take the time when you are speaking, speak clearly and slowly. Try and lower the volume on the electrolarynx so you don't get an echo. Keep the phone on one side and the electrolarynx on the other. And then you shouldn't get any feedback or interference then. So it's just a few little tips there. Any other questions about that, please reach out to your clinician, or reach out to the countrywide supplies nurses as well. They might be able to help you out with that. So I'm going to hand you back over to Ilana for the next couple of questions.
Thank you. We had a question submitted about leaving the house and going out. And Derek, if I could start with you. Have you been leaving your house for food or exercise? And have you done this since the start of lockdown or more recently as restrictions have relaxed?
Was that to me? Yeah,
It was to start with you, Derek, please. Yeah.
I'll be quite honest with you. At the beginning of the lockdown, it was probably the only time I've ever been bothered about anything in my life. And after a while, after the first week, when I kept myself busy, but then I thought, oh, I've had enough of this. I'm going for a walk. Well, where I live, on the housing estate I live, I've only got to walk about 100 yards, and then I can get onto the woodland footpaths and that. So what I used to do is I normally leave the house a bit early in the morning, so I never seen anybody as such. and I used to have an hour walk around, and I was doing it quite often. And it's I say, man, when I first started going to the shops and that, I was a bit aware. But it was other people that I was really annoyed at. That then some of the people that don't take any notice, or maybe they're a bit forgetful, I don't know. But even now, I notice people that don't just you've been standing it looking at something, and basically try and push out the way to get it, pick something up. Instead of just saying, "Excuse me, can I get something?" You know what I mean? And I'm quite sure for when I was in my daughter's at the weekend, she lives in well, Dean will know. She lives in Gosport, and me and the wife had a walk down into town on Friday with the granddaughter. There was the majority of people was fine. So you got the odd one that, they sifted it. Oh, what's up? That's the way I'm. Or if they've got a one-way system, they decide they want to come the other way, But no, not really. In the beginning, I was a bit concerned, but I think it's more common sense than anything.
Yeah,
And, I wouldn't like to think I've been stuck in the house all that while.
Yeah.
Because I did get a letter telling me that I should isolate till the 30th of June. And I thought if I'd had to do that, I think I'd have been killing the wife. I actually would. I don't think I could handle that.
It's good to hear the majority if we could look at the poll answers, the majority of people listening and are also they've continued to go out through lockdown as well. So it's that's good to hear, and it's good to share your experiences together now. Did anyone else have anything to add about their experience? Dean, you're on mute.
No, I'm not.
James and Roisin, I think you're on mute as well. If you want to unmute, there we go. There we go. Sure. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we can. Yes, as I said, the majority of people listening in have continued to go out, which is good. Also, just to report back, we on the results about face masks. There's been a lot of questions coming in still, and a lot of discussion about that. It seems like about 50% have been wearing face masks, and 50% haven't. So, thank you for the discussion on that as well. Another one, just about how is everyone feeling about the government coming out of lockdown? And sort of the next steps. Anyone offer any advice? Josh, do you have any advice, or Dean, go ahead.
Well, I think the majority of the country have sort of given up on lockdown, to be honest, from where I live. I mean, they're having cars are doing the same, the traffic's the same. Where we are down here, it's just as busy. People are social distancing, they're keeping their 1-2 meters. It goes back to what we said originally. It's more being sensible and just being more pragmatic about it. I mean, I listen to the news quite often, and to be honest with you, it got so bloody complicated with Boris telling him you can do this and someone else in Scotland saying you can do that. I just got so confused where I can be and what I could do and who I could see and who I couldn't see. I just thought to myself, what's right for me? What's the best thing for me and my family? And we've just to that. We went out for a meal on Sunday, went to the local Chinese for a lunchtime dim sum, which was quite nice. First time we've been out for a meal in months, but it was social distancing. It was very well done. It was fine. So we've just gone back to being normal but sensible.
But I just say something there, where we went into a pub in Gosport, down on the marina, Trinity, I believe they called it, and that place was very well organized. It was, we had a meal and everything, and they were very organized in there. I think on Saturday we went to Exbury Gardens, in the
Great.
New Forest, and sitting there, we called in a pub for lunch, and they were very good as well. You know, so some people are really doing the best,
Yeah.
but I just think it should have been done a long time ago. I think we have been reminded. So we're a month late closing, putting the lockdown on, and now they're coming out with face masks. Don't believe it. They should have been doing that a month ago. You know, when everybody was going to the shop. But again, nobody goes in without one. But I thought that just the government seemed to be so lackadaisy. So, you know,
Yeah.
they can't expect people or everybody to just jump and do as they said. You know, I mean, more to the point, they're the same as all them riot, well, all these big mass meetings. What a load of rubbish.
And you know what we know, medical advice has been very individualistic. You know, not everybody was told to shield. Some people were, but it was also after discussion with your healthcare provider as well. But it's great to hear that when you've been out, everybody on the panel now feels confident, and you know you're taking the measures to protect yourself when you do go out. Josh, we have a specific question for you, if I could ask. It's just in relation to returning to work. Excuse me, I'm just searching for it here. They're wondering is,
I think James wants to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
I think,
sorry. I went into work last week just to see what the news would be.
Yeah.
So
you haven't been back yet from your...
No, I haven't been back to work from the operation. I probably was very close to it until Corona come in. So, but I just went in to have a chat with them last week. So they're on about there's maybe about 7, 8 people in front of me. But then they're trying to sort out just the distancing.
Right.
So they're still sort of working on that, and they said they'd get back to me probably in the next week or so.
Good.
But hopefully get back to work shortly. So
that's great. Get back into routine.
Yeah.
Great. Along that line, James, and also to you, Josh, specifically, Josh, as you mentioned nursing, they're wondering how you're planning on to going back to work, and are you excited or apprehensive? How are you feeling?
I'm apprehensive, but not from a trachea point of view, just because work's really stressful. But I am a bit nervous in terms of like, because I'm a children's nurse and I'm neonatal, so the main thing is parents are the biggest risk for me. But I know the hospitals took a lot of measures, and they've done a lot of things in place. But I am excited to go back, and there was a lot of, when everything was up in the air during the pandemic, it was like going to be extended, was it not? And then at one point I was going to go back, and then they were saying no. So it was just very like, I think, because obviously I'm the only person in the trust that I work at has obviously got a tracheostomy, and they were obviously a bit unsure of what to do. There's no clear guidelines for tracheostomy patients in terms of shielding and returning to work, and a lot of it has always been up in the air. Like even within my training and things, it was like they didn't really know what to do. Like I just got on with my own thing and just adapted by myself. But I am excited to get back, so just because obviously it's a really practical job and I don't really like sitting still. And that's why I thought about like coming out of shielding like 9 or 10 weeks in, just because I'm getting back to work in 3 weeks' time, provided the government doesn't change any guidelines. So I thought, what's the point in me staying in the house, because I'm going to go from house to work,
Yeah.
where that's probably going to be the biggest risk because of there's loads of infection, and obviously parents and things. So I may as well go out and do what I want and just treat it like annual leave at the moment, just because I want to use some of the time that I'm able to go out rather than staying for like I did the past 10 weeks.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to pass it back to Catherine because I think we are 6 minutes left.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. That's great. So with the 5 minutes left to go, we just wanted to ask everybody what advice you'd give to a laryngectomy or a tracheostomy person who would be worried or concerned about coming out of lockdown, particularly if they have been shielding and haven't really left their house in the last 16 or 17 weeks. So I'm going to work around my screen. So if we could start with you again, Josh, please.
I'd say speak to your local, like whoever your healthcare professionals are, what teams you've got in place, speak to them first, what they recommend. From the tracheostomy point of view, a trachea patient's very individual in terms of what their needs are, and I know a lot. I'm obviously quite basic and lucky in that sense, but you can be quite complex in terms of what else you need. So speak to your healthcare professional in regards to that and what they think you should be doing at the moment, and make sure you've obviously got all your supplies in place and look for any extra things that may help in terms of going out and being in like crowded spaces and things. And if you want to wear your mask and extra valves, like I would do. But I think the main thing is obviously I was really worried at the beginning, like when I did my first food shop and things, and I was like rushing in and rushing out. But it does get easier the more you do go out and see people, and honestly, like, and in my area, the distancing isn't that great. So I think you do have to be prepared for that when you go out. Don't expect it to be really organised, amazing, because I was expecting that, and when I went to like food supermarkets and bars and pubs and things, it's not much different, I don't think. But I think do be prepared for that, but obviously don't do anything you don't feel comfortable in doing. So I think it's all individual really, and how you want to take it. I'm a very independent, outgoing person, so I was not going to be stuck in. I'll just do everything myself and go everywhere. So obviously it's up to you how you want to go, but I'd say just be prepared for maybe the distancing to not be as great, but obviously don't worry if it isn't. Just do your good infection control and just distance it if you want to, and don't go everywhere, like don't go in crowded places and things.
That's great. Thanks, Josh. Dean, can I put that question to you as well, please?
Yes, I mean, I can only reiterate really what Josh has said, but I mean, the notes that I just wrote down while Josh was talking was, one is be sensible and keep away from large crowds. Enjoy yourself, because it's great going outside and there's fresh air. There's nothing better than being out in the fresh air, and just be confident. There's not much more that you can do really. You've just got to learn to live with this virus. It's when you put down the amount of people that have got the virus at the moment, if you follow what's going on the websites compared to the population, it's very, very small amounts of people. So you just need to be confident in those areas and just keep away from large crowds. I think it's not much more you can say.
That's great, Dean. I think that applies to everybody, doesn't it? Particularly laryngectomy and tracheostomy patients, but everybody in general. Yeah, that's great. Derek, same question to you, please.
I think obviously it'd be a big step for them if they're not being happy for, but I would agree with Dean there. It should be sensible and avoid big crowds to start with, or maybe just go out for an hour or so for a walk, to get their confidence back, because the longer they stop in, the worse it will be for them. They'll not want to be. They'll end up, Yeah, permanent. I've been like a hermit. But you've got to get out and try and get back to normal as it's possible. And just start with a couple hours or whatever in the morning, and then gradually build up from that. But I mean, same as I said, I went down to my daughter's in the weekend, and I tell you what, it was like having a fortnight's holiday all in one. We went, although we didn't do things, it was just nice to be somewhere different as well, and be with the family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's all I can really say. As far as I can see.
Great, thanks, Derek. And James and Roisin, what about yourselves?
I think we keep our bubbles small. We'll have a few places with family that you will go tell our friends, and that's it. And I suppose maybe we should go out a wee bit more. We haven't, I must go out for a meal or that. We haven't really done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we do go visiting. So,
I think it's vital to go out and do whatever you have to go and get or do. More your normal bit of life, but
be careful too.
be careful.
Yeah.
Social distancing, it's not human nature to be doing that, so you just have to watch where you're walking, watch like for other people.
Yeah.
I just get on with it.
That's great. Thanks everyone. That seems to be the resounding message, to just stay safe, be sensible. That's great. So just to wrap that up then, that actually brings us to 3 o'clock and to the end of today's panel discussion. So I just want to take the opportunity to express a huge thanks to the panelists for taking your time today and participating, and for all your great answers to the questions that we've put to you. Just to let the audience know that we are holding another panel discussion on the same subject of coping during lockdown again next Thursday, which is the 23rd of July, between 6:30 and 7:30 in the evening. So if you'd like to join again, please feel free to do so, or spread the word if you know anyone that hasn't been able to make today's discussion. Thank you very much for attending. I hope to see you next week.
Problem. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Go ahead, Roisin.
Tony and Michelle, because only for them, they are just awesome. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear.